wonder if
We started this thing.
I guess we could start.
Yeah.
How about we start, everybody? We can all introduce ourselves and just say our names.
It's insanity.
This is our insanity. My name is Avery Jean Brennan. My first name is Avery Jean, not Avery. And my pronouns are they, them. And I'm currently in Chipuktuk. And I will pass it to Makram.
Hello, my name is Makram. I use he and him pronouns. I am in Amiskwachiwaskagan, or the speech that's real. And I will pass it to Olivia.
Hello, my name is Olivia Shortt. I am in Jacarando, and I am awesome. So I'm going to pass it to Rochelle.
I'm Rochelle. No last name at the moment, but it might be coming. She, they pronouns, and I'm also into Toronto. And I'm going to pass it over to Brock.
Oh, hello, I am Brock Words. I use they, them pronouns. I'm in Toronto. And yes, I am also fabulous. Who should I pass it to?
I think we're done.
That's it.
I do need to add in, because I didn't realize we were doing this, I am also fabulous.
I'm not.
My pronouns. I forgot my pronouns. I'm sorry. They, them.
Also, the reason my name is so long is so that I could have more stage time.
So I need 13 last names, I guess.
Honestly, Rochelle, you're in a really good spot right now. Your destiny is in your own hands. And like, also not having a last name is also an extended conversation about your name, because you're talking about it more and people will continue to remember it.
It's true. Okay, I just have to say this one thing, that honestly, my name is just right now, like names in general is the hardest part of being a producer right now for me. Like, I'll be like, I could start a company right now. I just don't know what to call it. I would be like on stage right now, but I don't know what name I want.
Well,
I have to delete my website.
if you pick the last name Theater Company, then your name and your company could just both be Rochelle Theater Company.
But isn't that like a little obnoxious though?
No.
I had to get talked down by my friends. I almost gave myself legally the middle name Talent. I was almost legally Avery Jean Talent Brennan, and then I had a lot of friends who were like, "Can you back that up?" And I was like,
You need new friends.
I know. I want that middle name for you. Like, yes.
Look, I find it really, when you sign up for the Fringe Festival or Riser or whichever one of these producers, they always force you to pick a company name. But you're like an independent producer, and then you got to pick a company name. And so we've got all these company names that I find it so tacky, like Thumb and Toe Productions, Leaf Green Productions. Like everyone's got these wackadoodle names. And so when I apply to these things, I'm like, I don't know. It's just like little old Makram Ayache independent productions. Can we just go with that? And then now suddenly that's a company name. But I'm like, it's not. It's just, I just got to apply, and you're forcing me to put this in. But do you notice that in the Fringe, there's like, everyone's got like a silly little production company.
That's what I really loved about the Stages Theater Festival, because they let me not have a company, and so it was just billed as Avery Jean Brennan's No Country for the so like,
amazing. Yeah, that's what it should be. That's what it should be.
Really
Okay, why
reveal their Fringe company names that they've used in the past? Unless everyone's just used their name and I'm the only one who's like...
No, I've done it.
Okay, good.
I have a queer theater company in Edmonton called In Arms Theater Collective. And so when it's been that, we've used that. And most of the Fringe shows I've done have been under that umbrella. But now that I'm going beyond that company, which is Edmonton based, I'm like, I can't do In Arms Queer Theater, In Arms Theater Collective. I gotta just be a little old me. Or start a new one, like Blue Bottles Production.
Respect.
McDonald's Coffee Production. I'll take suggestions. Should we jump in the first question here?
Yeah, sure.
Wait, oh,
Blue deodorant production. Number
here-
one, we've got, how do you describe your artistic practice?
do I really want to hear everyone's
Oh.
Yeah.
fringe company names? Because I feel
Sorry,
like it's a bond
yeah.
agreement.
What was your original I had to company name? Mine was Ambush Theater because we got in off of the wait list for Fringe 3 weeks before the festival and had no show. And so we were like, oh, we've been ambushed by this.
Nice.
Choco.
Wait, did you say you had two? What's your second?
No, that was just my
Oh, okay, there was one. Okay. Mine was apoplectic theater company because it's my favorite word. And I was like, that's my values, just pure anger and rage, but also being obnoxious and apoplectic because you can die from apoplexy. Ah. This is why I'm not allowed to name things.
Definitely stirring.
Yeah, thank you. Next.
Provocative.
Wait.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
I've never applied to Fringe, but I did have to apply for something with a friend in the US, and we needed a name for our organization, which we didn't have. So we just went with Cackle Collective because we're both really loud. And that was literally it. Like, we have loud laughs, and that was we're like, done.
Love.
I'm obsessed.
And Brock.
Yeah, no, never for the Fringe, but my friend Michael and I did like a poetry project, and we decided to like form as a little collective. So we called ourselves Tulip Sauce, and we used this image in Philosopher's Walk. It was like some like sewer cover that was in the shape of a tulip, and we just really liked that, like, you know, spit and making out, and then it dripping down into a sewer. Yeah, we're gross. Philosopher's Walk has like a, you know, infamous cruising history that has since shifted to Queen's Park, so perfect. Yeah.
It's thought out. That is thought out.
Yeah.
One might even say it's philosophical.
Yeah.
So, should we ask our first question of each other?
Yeah, Makram back to
Okay. How do you describe your artistic practice?
Extensively.
Say more. Brene Brown does that on her podcast. She hears something, she's like, say more, say more. It's good. It's a good tactic.
I would describe it now as I am about creating connections between community members in whatever form that might look like. And that is the only goal and mandate for my own artistic practice. And that shows up in things like play readings, it shows up in cabarets, it shows up in workshops, it shows in my own acting for other companies, or my music work, digital theater, like even like this, or my work with Bad Dog on their YouTube channel, and knowledge exchange, and yeah, like anything that creates a connection between community members through a creative pursuit is become what my practice has been now, and I really love it.
Nice.
And I will pass this question to Brock.
Oh, okay. Well, I wrote something. I hope it's okay to read it off the screen. Whatever.
I read notes the whole time.
Oh, great. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. You were like,
What did I write? I'm not wearing my glasses.
yeah. I don't know. I describe my art practice as like trash queen. So I'll just read my bio that I read to you during my little presentation. I'm an award-winning emerging object puppeteer, performance and community artist who makes funny faces, has a voice for radio, and I collect junk that someday will make sense as wearable art. Yeah, I don't know. I like trash. I like upcycling trash. I like reclaiming the stuff that makes me feel like trash. And yeah, I will pass it to Rochelle.
Ah. I feel like my arts practice has, at its core, become about the fact that like I matter and you matter, like the general you, like the person that we are and our histories and our stories and the things that we go through every single day and our baggage is important and needs to be protected and shown and emphasized. Before, like I had to question like what was the word that like put all my values together, and it used to be resilience, and now I hate that word because resilience is what's been forced on us and what we've had to like push through. And so now I've gone the entire opposite way, and I feel like now it's about comfort. And it's funny because when I say that and everyone's like, oh, what's your arts practice? And I'm like, it's about comfort. They're like a pillow. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about having people seeing theater and feeling comfortable. Like not everyone feels compromised all the time, going to work, walking out of your house, doing anything. Like once Western ideologies and you know, colonialism and all this stuff, when you feel the weight of that, you start compromising yourself and you feel uncomfortable in your body. So comfort in itself is like the most radical thing I can think of. And it's like, that's it. That's my value. That's my arts practice. Yeah. I'm gonna send it to Olivia.
I have a multidisciplinary practice. I come from a classical music background, and now I just do all the weird experimental things and do a lot of my own self-producing. And I am like kind of chaotic and weird, and my art reflects that. And I am definitely retaliating from a lot of things. Like I feel like I was taught by people in institutions. And now I'm like, no, I'm an adult. I can do what I want, and I will make the art I want to, and I'm gonna have fun, and it's gonna be an adventure. And I want that art to let me travel. So that's me. Makram, did you describe your practice?
No,
Your turn.
not yet. I'm so serious. Like I'm so wackadoodle, but like very like my art practice is so serious. I'm like I like to write dramas and tragedies, and I like to talk about very, very, very difficult things that we don't often have the bandwidth and the energy and the space that can cultivate that conversation constructively. Because it's hard to talk about hard things. And so we go through our lives avoiding it. I certainly do in my family life and my friendships and my chosen families. We are really intentional. We're really beautifully intentional. But these are skills we got that maybe our extended and our families who were born into didn't have. And so I think about that a lot. I'm like, my work right now, my artistic work is really familial. It's really like mom, dad, like that kind of family structure. And being a queer person, a queer immigrant in Canada, an Arab person, a sort of Muslim person, like all those identities and experiences, they impact my work. Next on my horizon is really, I want to think about all of those things, but in the context of my laundry's done. In the context of capitalism, I want to know what I mean when I say imperialistic capitalism. I want to know what I mean when I really say that. I have senses and understandings, but I want to dedicate some really research time toward being equipped to talk about it. And so that's my next adventure with writing. And with that said, my practice is writing. I love, love, love writing, and I love to write theater and then perform in it. And I love the energy of having a director take the world and bring it into 3D space, and I could just go in it and play as an actor. It's the best. It's the actual best. And so I think a lot about white supremacy. I think a lot about imperialism and colonialism and how it's impacted my lands in the Middle East, and how now I'm a settler in Canada and the colonialism here. That's all impacts my work. And I also, another place I'm growing is queer joy. Like my work has been serious and heavy and cathartic, I think. but I want to go into queer joy, like celebrating my life is so good with my queer friends and my queer communities. It's so wonderful. It's so much to celebrate, and that needs to be also affirmed in our work. That it is the tragedy of it all is really important and great, and also to celebrate that affirming our queer joy. A part of my artistic practice is teaching as well, and I think that I just like I love to teach, and it complements and balances. It's that like Avery, Jean, you saying you connect communities. I feel like teaching is that channel in that practice. Because our success is so bound up in each other. I lose nothing by everyone having so much success around me, and whatever success means, you know what I mean? Not in a capitalistic sense, but in a thriving sense. If we all come to this channel, this Zoom meeting, like thriving, it's for all of our benefit. It's for all of our benefit. So that's how I would describe my artistic practice right now. So much more I just love being an artist. It's so wonderful.
I really like that we're doing this.
Me too.
Right? Like, let's just talk about how much we love our jobs.
I mean, the next question. Does anyone want to read the second question?
I can. All right. How has your artistic practice evolved over the year? Olivia, would you like to answer this?
Sure. So over the last year, obviously being at home has meant doing kind of everything, at least for the work I've been making. So I've received lots of I guess they're like micro commissions from various festivals and things. So it's been a lot of making a DIY recording studio in my house with a bunch of blankets. Learning how to edit videos has been a huge thing. I started with iMovie, and even if you I started going through some of my old videos from a year ago, and I was like, wow, I was really bad at this. I'm now slightly better. And now I'm using Final Cut Pro and trying to learn how to use all the fancy features in that, because it is a lot harder. But yeah, it's been learning how to make videos and just doing everything kind of from start to finish and feeling more like we're working in film and TV kind of. Even thinking about scenes, I worked on a project with a bunch of folks who were all in different places, all had different access to gear and to also just time to work on the thing. And learning to decide the balance of really intense notes about what I was looking for to here's the feeling, do something around this, and just send me everything you have. And that worked out great. So yeah, it was learning to manage other people from a distance and not being in the same space from them, and figuring out how to problem solve and being forced to in such unique ways. So that's been the biggest things. It's just getting all these random commissions and then having to learn how to do a bunch of new, I never edited a video before. So that was a journey. I will pass it to Avery Jean.
Thank you. Ooh, I caught it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I was gonna say that part of my practice has evolved because I've fallen in love with my own personality, and then I said that before I did it. No, because of the pandemic, a lot of my work, right before I was doing a lot of music direction for musical theater, both in indie companies and for regional theaters in Canada, and acting, and kind of sticking more in that realm. And yes, I was writing, and yes, I was also doing administrative work to pay the bills, but my focus was music direction. I'll be this actor and who's also an activist just by existing as a trans person in any of these spaces. In the last year, all that kind of went away because musical theater hasn't really been something that we could easily translate to digital theater just because of latency. Even just the five of us can't sing in unison over Zoom. And so kind of going to my other things and realizing I got asked to like host a bunch of things, and suddenly I was hosting my own show that was doing community play readings online, and I was hosting those and facilitating workshops and leaning more into producing. And hold on, a siren's going by. It's an ambulance. There's a problem. Hold on. I'm not, the problem isn't me, but someone else has a problem and there's an ambulance going by because of it. Again, I really love my own personality now. But no, like doing this like hosting work and finding so much joy and success in being myself in spaces of art and performance that I hadn't really gotten to do a lot of before, which really taught me to trust who I am, like not just my work, but who I am as a person. It made me trust, yes, my values, but also the constant evolution of those values. It made me trust what I task myself with, and it made me trust what I task others with and how I do that intentionally. Yes, like I talked in my presentation about how I've learned to trust essentially, but like that trust is never blind. It's taught me to look for like, what is it about certain people that I trust with blank task, and what is it that I trust with myself? Like, why do I trust myself to host an entire thing? Why do I trust myself to be the judge of theater sports for an entire season? Like, I'm thinking like, oh, because I trust that I do have this fun personality and that I can just be myself and show up into it. And that I do have all these other hard skills on top of that. And that's really informed how I take care of myself, because it's really informed my own view of my own worth and my view of knowing like I deserve nice things, so I'm going to give myself nice things. I deserve good friends and people who empower me, so I'm going to be around good friends and people who empower me. And I deserve to feel good about who I, in return, empower. And so I'm going to surround myself with people who I genuinely love and genuinely believe in their work and also their personalities too, of like who do I find compliments me, who do I find matches me, and then when I find that we don't match or complement each other, I don't take it that personally either anymore, because I'm like, no, we do different things and that's fine. And then if I'm ever on a project where I need someone who is that, great, come on board, but like for the most part, like I don't need it. And letting go of that need, especially starting my career as an actor and being like, oh, I got to get the next job. I have to get every contract and I need to work all the time and blah, blah, blah. Like that, I look back over this last year and I think about how that framework has completely left my mind. I don't think like that at all. Like, I feel like coming back in after this year, I'm so much more selective about the projects I choose. I'm so much more selective about even the jobs that I do. I'm like, I like music direction. Do I want to pursue it as seriously as before? No. And that's okay. I've gotten to know myself more. I've gotten to know, and I've gotten to trust myself, and I've gotten to trust the opportunities that I get and pursue. The end. And now I'm going to pursue an answer to this question from Makram.
Okay, thank you. How has my artistic practice evolved in the year? I actually, the serendipitous thing is that I told myself, so the 2019, I produced a show and it was rehearsed in Toronto, flew to Edmonton, like this wonderful, amazing cast that put in their labor and energy. And it went really well, but it was so much work. And we had done a preview of it in Rhubarb and that was earlier in 2019. And so 2020, I said, I'm going to dedicate time to writing and really allow myself to develop my writing practice. And so it was serendipitous because the pandemic hit in March. And in my calendar for the year, I said March is when I'll start writing my new play, The Hooves Belong to the Deer. And so I just have had an abundant amount of time to write. And my practice is like, I've become more rigorous as a writer, more like in ways that I would write previously. And let myself get away with things, which is okay, which is great. Sometimes you just got to write it and it can be not perfect for you, not ideal, doesn't feel right, whatever. You just need to get it done. That's okay. But I this year I really sharpened my focus. So I wouldn't move on to the next scene or the next moment without really feeling strong about where I am in this moment of writing. And so that kind of rigor served me well. I went through several drafts of this play, and it keeps getting more and more refined, and that's a huge step forward in my artistic practice. It's subtle. I'm not experimenting in other forms. I also I'm not experimenting in like. I like writing. So whether it's film or TV writing, whether it's novel writing, whether it's going to be graphic novels or it's going to be stage plays, I just love creating. I love the creativity from writing. And so I wish I said like, oh, I've become a whiz at radio play creation or editing or whatever, but I really am terrible with technology. And I feel a bit like, I don't care to develop those skills in that direction. And so, my no, how has my artistic practice evolved? Cut this part, Annie. That was I'm thinking. Yeah, I think I've allowed myself to be more honest with what I love to do, with what's honest to me. Why do I pursue some things? It feels like because I do it for safety. I do it because this is what the industry says you're supposed to want to do. Because I do it out of necessity, like EDI workshops, inclusion and anti-oppression workshops, like those sorts of. I do it but at the more and more I become honest with myself, I'm like this fundamental carnal, childish desire to want to just be creative through my writing really got sharpened this year and really became nourishing. And so I started a blog at the beginning of 2020 that I've been able to write some kind of essay contemplative writing, which has been really amazing because I love reading that work and to have some place where who cares if it's only 300 people reading it or whatever. That wasn't the stakes of it. The stakes is that I was like, this is going to be public. So it could be 10 million people. So I just got to write something that's really refined and strengthen my voice in it. And so that pursuit was really scary and exciting and rewarding. Refining the play, which is really gestating in this past year, which we had a little radio play version of it halfway through its development. And now, there's potentials for it to be staged next year, which would be amazing. In all those ways, it's like you said, Avery, Jean, it's just trusting yourself and being cool, being honest and truthful with this is what I desire to do. Yeah, you like musical theater directing, but you don't necessarily want to pursue it full time, So it's kind of nice to feel myself become more refined in my ambitions or my desires or my affinities. Yeah, that's cool. Rochelle, how has your artistic practice evolved in the last year?
Well, Makram, I would love to tell you. I just really wanted to. Avery, Jeannie started this. So how my artistic practice has changed in the last year. Honestly, it's been a lot of self-reflection, and really I'm learning and breaking apart a lot of toxic practices that were I was aware of, but were just straight up inside of. They were just part of who I was, and I was just bound by them and running against them and hitting walls and not understanding what was going on, and it was driving me nuts. Last year when the pandemic hit, I was oh my gosh, 2020 was my year. I was gonna be in festivals and do this thing and do this thing and do this thing, and I was I'm not letting the pandemic stop me. So I was in Paprika. I was in Rendezvous with Madness. I did get into APT and I was like, yeah, I'm killing it. I'm killing it. I'm killing it. I'm going to keep killing it. And I like made my website myself and I was like, I have no money. And I kept going and going and going and going and going. And then we were like, okay, now let's do a self-learning plan. What you gonna do? And I was like, yeah, I can do all this stuff because I've been doing it and doing it and doing it well. And then I was like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. What is happening to me? Oh, good. So, sorry, it's been a long day. I feel like this is the vibe I'm in. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah. And then I started doing yoga on my, like in my bed, like bed yoga. And then I was like, I'm going to put this on social media. And then like finding myself getting mad at other people who are like doing stuff on social media because like I couldn't bring myself to do it. And like starting to craft and being like, I'm going to do this and add it to my art. And then I like didn't. And I was just like, what's happening? But like as that was happening, I like kept trying to find new things that would develop into rest for me, and then try to monetize it. And then that's when the wall would hit. And then I would be like, okay, wait a second, what have I wanted to do since the very beginning was theater? What is my passion? I love to story, like I'm a storyteller. I want to produce things, but am I still a producer if I haven't produced anything this year? Am I still a theater artist if I haven't created anything? I've been talking about the same show for like 5+ years now, and I like didn't touch it this year. This must have been a terrible year. And it wasn't. It was a fantastic year because I realized I have hobbies and interests outside of theater that are amazing, and I would love to see them like incorporated, but also they don't have to be incorporated. I can call myself a theater artist, and a producer and a content creator and multidisciplinary whatever, and that doesn't mean I have to do anything to prove that to anybody else but myself. I just need to do what I got to do. And right now I'm really excited to like build a foundation for all of the things that I want to do, because I want to do so much and I'm so excited for it, but I can't do it right now. One, because I'm a mentally ill, Black, fat, queer, all of the things. And I have had to deal with a lot of trauma, you know, coming through my theater practices. I was told that I had to make theater for white people. And then I was like, why is all my stuff bad? Because it wasn't my stories. I, you know, started doing things and people were like, oh, whatever you're doing is wrong. And I was like, but this feels right to me. Why is it wrong? And I kept shifting it for other people and realizing, oh, these are based on Western standards, or because people wanted to control me in certain ways. So I've had to prioritize myself a lot more this year and think about like the things that I want, and then think about what I want to produce and give to other people. Like I want to have a arts and wellness space. I want to be able to pay it forward, but I can't pay anything forward unless I do something for myself. Like I have to take care of myself and then I can take care of others. And I think that has been the most beneficial thing I have learned in a really, really long time. And I have to apply that. I'm applying that to everything in my life, but the fact that it's so revolutionary applying it to my job is just so weird. But I'm like, this needs to happen. And I think that's also why I've like really appreciated the theater industry, because like there's a lot of messed up stuff like across the board, but when it comes to like us indie artists, we get to change things and like change the way it's supposed to be. And I'm like, I want to change things and I want this to continue throughout other places. So yeah, that was a lot, but I'm gonna pass it to Brock.
Okay, this might be cringy, but it's like I don't know, creating a safety net. And I've actually been working on a safety, hold on, I'm gonna go get it. I'll be right back. Da, da, da. Yes, it's this thing that I've been making out of fruit nets and pipe cleaners. And I've just been working on it all pandemic long, just like, oh shit. And then my cat eats it. I have to be careful. My cat will eat it and then vomit it up. But yeah. Why am I doing this? I have no idea. But I don't know, is there a metaphor here? Yeah, I don't know. One thing that I've been thinking about is like, I don't have to constantly be doing art or getting grants or getting all these opportunities in order to be validated as an artist. I feel like I spent a lot of time, investing my self-worth as a human being into my art. And, you know, and that just wasn't working for me. Over the pandemic, I was investing a lot into like community care, and you know, that's been really beautiful, and you know, to like get outside of myself. And then, you know, and then periods where I'm like, no, I have to go back to myself and just kind of invest in myself. There were some periods of relapse, and you know, I like thinking about creativity and like how, you know, creativity versus destruction, and I've always kind of been standing on that edge, and sometimes it can be really scary, and you know, and sometimes like there's just like a lot of failure, and you know, and then when like I hear a no, it doesn't, you know, Sedna was talking about like in the art world, like if you know, if you hear a no, it doesn't mean never, but like not now. What am I trying to say? How has my practice evolved? I feel like I'm not as, because I feel like a lot of my art before was just this like trauma mining, and you know, this like, oh, I've got to prove to everybody that, you know, I am somebody, that, you know, you didn't waste your time. I've got to, you know, yeah. And so I feel like that's kind of lessened quite a bit. Still a long way to go, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's where I'm at. Yeah.
I think I really like how like there's kind of a common theme between all of us of finding ourselves in our work almost. And like, I don't mean the sense of like, who am I? Okay, Olivia. Or in Olivia's case, finding Makram. But like finding the difference between like, what are we doing? We're making art for other people. And I think it's a good thing not to make art selfishly. Like, it's not like this is only for me and no one else. Like, that's a very different thing. But it's like the idea of like making art for us first, I think is still what we're doing now after this last year. And like, what do I mean by that? Of like for me at least, like before it was like, how can I make something that people will like? How can I make something that people will hire me for? How can I make something people pay me for? What do people want? But without thinking as well what I wanted and what I wanted to do and what I like doing. And this last year has been like a big stop and looking at, oh, what do I actually like? And how about I only do those? Does that feel resonant?
Yeah, I want to just add, like, Brock, you're talking about like this trauma mining. I feel that also intensely, and I like people were nodding. I think like there's also, it's symptomatic of our industry right now over the past 5-7 years that there's this desire to include people from marginalized experiences. But there is, sometimes I get prospected, which is very great. I'm so grateful that I do get work coming my way. But sometimes I notice that I don't think they actually have any opinions, or maybe they haven't even seen my work. They just know gay Arab, cool. We've heard you're doing great. We've heard you're doing great. We've heard you're doing this. We heard you wrote a play. But like, can you tell me what about my art is like exciting you? What was your favorite character that I wrote? What was your favorite moment? Was there a thing like you can when people aren't engaging with me on that level, or any of us as marginalized artists, I'm like, we're missing something necessary. Like, I'm an artist. This is what I'm really excited about my development this year, is like, I'm like, fuck, I love writing. I love narrative. I have no reason. I don't want to shy away from that. It doesn't belong to the white, the heroic journey doesn't belong to whiteness. Arab histories have tons of beautiful, robust narrative stories. Like, talk to me about that. Talk to me about narrative and story structure and world building and world imagining and that kind of stuff. Because that's the art that I want to do. That's the art that I do already write, So that, like, when people are engaging with us only based on our traumatic experiences or our experiences of marginalization, which can be traumatic, then that's all they're seeing. And then that's how I start to understand myself. And I'm like, well, to get this grant, I better talk about how the trauma of my family leaving the Lebanese civil war, like, I better talk about these things. And it's not, that's a huge part of my story and my journey, but it's not my art. It's not what my art is, what my sensibility, my aesthetics, my desires, the cool shit. Like, art is cool. Like, we do cool things. So that's where I want to press on people. Like, I had someone engage me for a production of mine, and I don't even think they read the script. Like, I truly don't. I think they saw, oh, great, gay Arab, this went well at the Edmonton Fringe. Let's get this guy part of our season. And truly, like, they just like had nothing to offer. They said, we're hungry for Makram. And I thought, well, I'm not something to eat. Like, come on, tell me, what about the script? What moved you? What part? What was intriguing? What was, like that? That's where I'm gonna press up on people when they engage me, and a lot of people, of course, engage me as an artist, but it's that trauma mining. I see that impulse. I feel that impulse all the time, because that's what gets us fucking grants and gets us through the doors and all those things. But I think once we get in the door, let's just push back against it.
Olivia, did you go already?
Yeah, I just don't talk as much as everybody else. No offense.
Yeah, Olivia went first.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's totally fair. I just because it was like, I think I remember, but then also I wanted to say more stuff, and I talk a lot, and I'm like, I don't want to.
No, Olivia was busy turning all of us into their background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, Rochelle, yours is coming. I'm thinking about that, and trauma informed, and
yeah,
the thing when people just kind of, how many boxes do you click? And then they're like, you should do this because you're Black and you're queer and you're whatever. And when I know that's happening, but I'm like, I still need that paycheck. I find I try to put my boobs up more on my social media. I'll just be like, well, I mean, you wanted to put my name here, and so I'm connecting to your values, but if I just make myself more ridiculous, that you're now coming on my train now. You're now in full support of burlesque and this body and all of the ridiculous things that I say. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I don't know if that's the best practice, but it's mine and I like it.
Do we want to move to the next question, or is there anything else wanted to add in? Okay. What is a question you brought into APT? And we'll start. Who wants to start with that one? That seems like a big question. I don't want to throw it at anyone's face.
I could do it. One of the questions that I asked is, why do I produce? Why do I produce? And that was, and I was pretty transparent in my applications and everything going into it. So I'm glad they accepted me in this regard, because it was really an exploration of why do I produce? And the more and more I interrogated that, right now, this year, this month, right now, I could say that my producing practice is really a means to an end. I want to get my work out there. I want to stage my plays. I want to rehearse and hire artists and work with a really cool team and get those conversations activated with audiences and artists. And so in pursuit of that, I produce. And so do I have a desire to produce other people's works? Maybe in the right kind of configuration where I know I'm honoring my own work as well as able to produce other people's work and I'm able to sustain myself in that capacity, then yes, maybe. But definitely that question was like a big, like if I couldn't pursue my own artistic ambitions and I'm only an artistic producer for other people's works, is that something I would do? Well, no, that feels like I'm a business manager, and that's like the complete opposite of my personality and my sensibilities and everything, you know? Yeah, I'll pass it to Olivia. Chaotic.
Sorry, I was busy. I'm listening, but I was just like, ooh, I need to get the right screenshot. I just kind of wanted your eyebrows and your crap.
You really only got my forehead. Which is fair. It's very big. I get it.
So when I applied, I had not. This is like technically my third application for this program because I never finished my other two. I wanted to be in this program for a while, and I just like life stuff was going on. I'd be like, nah, this is not happening. So I don't know. It just felt like this was the right year for it. And also, I was kind of needing like a space to figure out, you know, how much do I like producing, and like how much, if I had to put a percentage on it, was it going to be something I want to do 100% of the time? Was it something like more like 20% of the time? And so, yeah, I was kind of bringing into this program, like, just that question with me, because at one point I was like, yeah, I totally want to be a producer. So great. That's what I want to do. And then I decided in 2020 that I wanted to be an artist full time. And that was before the pandemic. And so getting into this program was kind of like a nice space to think about that a lot and figure that out. I passed to Brock.
What was the main question? So it was like, how do I bridge the community care stuff with like the arts admin and then my own art practice, and then like see how, you know, the community engaged stuff is actually, is actually part of my art practice, and like it's like deeply embedded into it. There have been times when people have said, oh, Brock, I don't really see you as an artist. I see you more as like, you know, producing. So it was like, okay, am I an artist? You know, I still have that kind of question. And I'm going to pass it to Rochelle.
It's a beautiful hat. I love it. Yeah, the question I came in with, this was my second time applying to the program. And the first time, I'm pretty sure I didn't get in because I just got out of another program with dance immersion, and it was their first year doing an arts admin program for Black artists, which was amazing. And I learned a lot. And I think when I applied for APT, I was just kind of like, the next step, and didn't actually say why I wanted to be there in a like actual way. So I had to like sit back and ask myself that question more thoroughly. And I came in with the question of like, how do I do it all? Because I want to produce, but I want to do it all. And is producing the thing that's going to allow me to do it all? Like, producing my own work and then producing others' work. And I still definitely wanted to follow like my values, and I had identified like comfort as being that value. And it still felt like such a huge undertaking. And it's an interesting thing when you go in with like the value of comfort and also with like grind culture and being like, how do I do this? And then the surprising answer is just take your values that you're putting out there and just put them on you. And it's like, oh, that's how I can do all the stuff I want to do. Cool. So yeah, I like, honestly, I even went into this thinking like I wasn't actually going to get a real answer to how do I do all of the stuff? Like, how do you actually be a multidisciplinary artist? Because all the examples that I've seen has been like, they did one thing and then they did the next thing and then they did the next thing and then they did the next thing. And that just didn't make sense for my brain, partly because I have a desire to act and sing and dance and be nude sometimes. Not actually. I really like lingerie. Like I'm let's talk about it. Yeah, like I got a pole and I was like, yes, this is gonna be awesome. Like I want to do all of those things and I don't want to like sacrifice things and I don't know how to prioritize things because I also have like ADHD. And I was like, what? I don't know. So the fact that I'm like, wait, I like everyone can do everything differently and everyone does everything differently. They just like might seem similar from like certain perspectives, but that has a lot to do with like access. So yeah, that was my big question. How do you do it all? Passing. No, Olivia, why?
Like, I'm not sorry.
Avery Jean, is your turn, right?
That's my turn. I also just want to start by saying I respect Olivia's refusal to apologize. I think that in this group, we don't say I'm sorry, we say you're welcome, and I love that. Where I landed was I've always known that I love producing, and I produced other people's work quite a bit, or co-produced, or like I will be given a task to do as a producer and do it. But I had such a hard time with self-starting for my own, especially for my own things. Like if I look at my own projects, like how do I can be asked to do things and love it. But what is stopping me from asking myself to do things for me? And a lot of that ended up being worth. It ended up being self-worth that I didn't know I was still grappling with. It ended up being confidence in hard skills that I already possessed, but wasn't able to articulate or express to myself that I knew them. Or I didn't feel supported enough in them. And so this has really been about coming through that and coming through the other side as someone who I think I was always someone that who I am now would have asked to do work for myself, but I was not someone who could ask myself to do that work yet. And so that was kind of like, how do I become that? How do I overcome this hurdle of this initiation paralysis of starting my own work? And then we'll run right into Makram's bonus question. The last question. What are you leaving APT with? I'm leaving with that. I'm leaving with this sense of I am someone that I want to ask to do work. I am someone that I trust to do producing work, who I trust to lead a room, who I trust to eventually become an artistic director of a company and to create opportunities for other people and to create spaces for connection and create spaces for art and how beautiful that is. I am someone that I trust to do that work. And I love that. I'm feeling myself so much lately. Oh my God. I'll send you those videos of me feeling myself from Saturday night. I've become so much more obsessed with myself. And I'm just like, the question I'm leaving is like, am I iconic?
Yes. Oh, I didn't realize.
And the answer is yes. And, so I'll pass it to Brock. Brock, what are you leaving with?
But I was like, oh my God, was I actually ready for APT like towards the end? But then I don't know, after the presentation, it was just like, yeah. And also like talking to Rochelle like before, like it was like, no, I was ready. And what I did was worthy. I am not just a behind the scenes person. I'm also an artist. I'm an artist producer. And that's what I'm leaving with. And yeah, and also to just like stand in joy. Like give that fucking anxiety, scarcity culture, jealousy culture shit a break and just like embrace queer joy. Even in failure. Okay, Olivia.
I'm leaving with lots of screenshots of various parts of your faces. There's so many on my computer right now. I guess I'm leaving this program with like a different idea of how I perceive myself. That's been a big thing. It's been really hard for me to like be confident in like me, and finding like I guess just like positive reflections of myself has been my thing. What does your background say? I need to know. Oh, good. Yes, love this. Queer joy actually was a prompt for something I made with my friend Gabrielle, and like we kind of made a bunch of weird videos about queer joy and like put on the internet. We asked people to give us like their thoughts of queer joy and art that inspired them. So I have this like Google Doc filled with things people sent us, and it was everything from like people talking about metallic makeup to like a specific poem someone was thinking of, and anyways, I felt that was relevant. But yeah, I think it's just that, like, just this change in how I look at myself and how I think about myself and talk about myself. So it's not really a question I'm leaving with, it's more of a thought or a way of being. Who hasn't answered this? I forgot. Rochelle, your turn.
I'm so afraid of things. What I'm leaving with, I think I'm definitely leaving with prioritizing healing and wellness and letting go of trauma and how the things that I feel other people deserve, I deserve too. And that is really important to sustaining myself and being able to be an arts leader. Like I'm not going to be able to be a leader if I'm saying one thing and doing another thing, which is something we've learned since kindergarten. But like since then, we've been taught the exact opposite. So it's an interesting thing to have to go back and be like, wait, what did I learn as a child? Be nice to myself and then be nice to others. Cool. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take that. I would like to be like, I think I'm iconic. But in that I'm taking the fact that I'm going to not compare myself to others in the same way that I did before, because I always did. I would like, even with this group, I think you all are doing such wonderful, amazing things. And I'm like, why aren't I doing that? But I'm sitting here and I'm just like, you're all doing such amazing things. And I'm so inspired by you. They're so different and they're so different. And like the reason I'm not doing what you're doing is because I'm not doing what you're doing. You're doing it. And that's where that's fantastic. I'm so happy that you're doing it. And I'm going to be doing my thing. And yeah. And so that's what I want to take. I want to take that you all inspire the shit out of me. And I think y'all are glorious people. And queer joy, yes. I straight up think that more straight people need to like experience queerness, because it's not about attraction and sex. It's like this whole other way of experiencing joy that I think is just phenomenal. And I love that is like a part of all of our work. And I hope that more people experience it and see that like queer joy is primarily for the queers, but like there's something to take from it for everybody. And it's so beautiful. And Black queer joy and Indigenous queer joy and just all these like intersections are like amazing, and freaking love cats. Anyway, hello Kitty. Yeah, Makram, say some stuff now.
Hey, I will take away from APT. Oh goodness. Actually, I think this has been my favorite moment of the whole program. Like I so feel in good company, in good community, and I'm so glad I got to meet each and every one of you. And I hope that this is just the beginning of how we can intersect with our work, with our lives, with our activism and our organizing. There's just so much here. We've all got such strong main character energy right now, and I can feel that. Everybody, like, compared to day one when we first met, and now look at us, way to go, everyone. So I'm leaving with the also prioritizing my affinities, my desires, and like I said in my presentation, like prioritizing rest. Like the ultimate thing that needs to be prioritized ever is rest, so that I could show up to my work, to my communities, to my neighborhoods and my families in the most replenished and possible way. So rest is really exciting. I bought a whole bunch of books yesterday, and I just like can't wait to dig into them and read for the fall and summer. So that's what I'm leaving with. Thanks, everyone. Love to you all.
Love you too.
Does Violet have any concluding thoughts?
Let's see. What's that? She's a little mad.
I loved.
Like, I'm
She's
not
just gonna quietly growl.
fine, I'll be your mascot. Wait.
She's really mad at me. I have to watch out. She might slap me.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you all for this conversation, and thank you to everyone who may have been watching this. This has been Queer Joy, a conversation with APT. Starring the 5 of us.
Everybody sleep.